I'm Tom Landon. Thanks for joining me as we learn what it takes to reimagine a music festival. FloydFest has a long history of being one of the highlights of the summer for music lovers near and far, but this summer's event took on new significance due to its new location in Czech, Virginia. After taking a year off to get ready, new traditions were born on a beautiful new site. Here to talk to us today about the transition to a new home and all of the struggles and triumphs that entailed are FloydFest CEO John McBroom and Chief Operating Officer Sam Calhoun. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And I say welcome back because the last time you were sitting here was a year ago when a tough decision had to be made, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And that show never actually aired. So I'm glad that you guys said yes to coming back, and now that we have some good news to talk about. So both of you, the path to running a music festival has got to be a circuitous one. So, John, I'll just start with you. What is it in your background that led you to doing what you're doing now?
Oh, that's been going on for over 40 years. Basically, I tried, everyone in my neighborhood tried playing instruments, and we would generally go out and try and find shows and people that would pay us, and a bunch of them just kind of laughed at us, especially when we were teenagers. So we figured out if you take a generator and all your band equipment and other things out into the woods. So we just started having our own little parties, and thankfully Botetourt was in the process of expanding their suburban footprint. And there were about, I'm going to say 150 cul-de-sacs over there that had been cut in, but nothing was going to be done with them for a couple of years. And we exploited that area a lot and played lots of music. So basically just wanting to play music.
And for as long as I've known you, you've been in more than one band,
yes.
Right? Yeah, maybe what are some of the bands you're still in today?
Today, let's see. Well, Blue Mule is probably the one that has the longest tenure. We're going on somewhere in the 20-year mark. Goat is a whole lot of fun. It's an original band that does kind of psychedelic blues. Let's see. There is Leonard Blush and the Chemicals, which is kind of an electric offshoot of Blue Mule with a bunch of those same guys, which is... Again, anytime I get to play music now, I just call it therapy. It's
right.
Kind of a wonderful thing. And then I'm also playing with a band called Kerosene Willie as well, just helping that on lead guitars.
Yeah, so anybody who goes to music here, whether it's at breweries or festivals or clubs, has probably seen you out. Sam, I know you've been with FloydFest for a while now too. What was your path?
Well, it's interesting. I'm not a musician, such as John. I was in the arts growing up, but oddly enough, I always wanted to touch music, and I fell in love with the art form of the music festival. I tried to do it on my own in various states, and New York and North Carolina, and lost a lot of money during those days trying to support the dream of throwing a music festival, and started working around the country and fell back home, where I'm originally from here in Roanoke, to be able to be gratefully blessed to work with FloydFest, and so I've been doing that for a while. So it's always been a dream. I truly feel like I have my dream job, and most days it feels like that.
Do you remember a festival in your youth, maybe the first festival that you remember attending?
Yeah, in fact, I'll even say this. I have a license plate that speaks to this to this day. I fell in love with the art-forward focus of Fish, the band Fish, and how they threw music festivals and the logistics that they put in place. They didn't always work, but the thought behind them was genius, and the fact that they had on-site art installations always resonated with me, meant a lot to me, and so I actually fell in love. My license plate is Fest with a PH to this day, and I feel that the torch is carried very much so to that ilk with FloydFest these days.
Yeah. How about you? Do you remember an early music festival?
I don't remember the early music festivals other than the ones that we would put on, but I would say we are definitely at least a tangent from the Grateful Dead.
Sure.
The bands, the scene, the community seems to have grown out of that tribe. So to speak.
Yeah. And one of the things that's interesting about FloydFest to me, and I have been going since the very first year before it was called FloydFest. We went up the mountain to check it out, and most years since have been in attendance, is the variety. Some music festivals do have, this is kind of a jazz fest, or this is old time music, or this is, Americana. Sam, as you guys program FloydFest, and you've probably learned a lot of things over the years, but how do you find that balance of the kind of acts that you think people might come to see, but also bands that they don't know yet that they're going to fall in love with?
It's a great question. We started as a world music festival, kind of morphed into a roots music festival. One of the greatest tenets, one of our guiding philosophies is purposeful programming, right? We have 100 bands over 5 days on 7 stages. How does that all work together? It's not just throwing it against the wall and see if it sticks. And each day when you look at that programming separately, makes sense as the whole. And that's been very important to us to program. But that goes back to, of course, there's a joke people say about us that we either get them on the way up or the way down. And I actually take that as a compliment, because one of the, calling cards of the festival is the patrons leave with a new favorite band they never heard of before. And it's our job every single year, which we're doing right now, we're in talent blind season, is to find those new up-and-comers and to figure out where they'll be in 12 months, why we feel that they fit our personal programming so well. And I'll have to say, I think we've done very well with that in the past, and we're looking forward to doing that in the future. If you looked at the FloydFest 24 Horizon lineup that we just finished up, the mid-range bands, the lower range bands, they're all very powerful, and they're going to become household names, majority of them in the years to come. And so that's one of our calling cards that's very important to our brand.
And then often there's a band that you might have seen at FloydFest a couple years ago, and then guess what? They've been back every year since. I'm thinking of bands like, Sex Brews, which is a very fun band. I don't know where they're based, but I don't think they're too far away. Charleston. Yep. And, people know when their set is going to be, and so they go to that set, and it's kind of a visual extravaganza.
And then some get so big that, we've stewarded them to those range. Tyler Childers comes to mind. He's been a great friend of the festival for many years, and now, thankfully, he's skyrocketed. We can't afford him, but one day we will again.
Right. Maybe FloydFest 40 will be seeing Tyler Childers back. I know that it's not just music, so you guys have a lot of other stuff going on, both for families and then the arts. And how important is it to you that it's not just about music?
Well, in a lot of ways, I would say it's more of a homecoming. It's more of a everyone comes back together and gets to see each other. And I remember the first year I was an investor, and I really thought that I could go as a patron. So I tried that year, and I ended up helping friends and being in picking circles more than seeing any music. I think I saw 5 minutes of the Neville Brothers. And then the next year I was like, no, I'm going to be a patron. I'm going to do this. And I ended up helping everyone on stages, and again, never seeing anything, and was just like, no, it's where everyone comes together to be. And and that has been, I think for a lot of the long-term people, that's as big, or at least a very important part, just like the bands that we're trying to bring to the people.
Sure. And I've got friends who were they came before they had babies, they brought their babies, now their kids are coming as adults.
Now the kids are performing.
Now the kids are performing. That in my case, that's what happens when my kid performs. Talk a little bit about, people always wonder, like, is it a safe place to bring a family? And I try to tell them, like, there is a whole children's area, but also it feels like people are looking out. How do you try to make sure that it's fun for everybody, but safe for everybody?
Yeah, so number one, we are a family-friendly music festival, almost to the point that it's almost understandable to us in some degrees, right? We have been very intentional since day one to make it a family-friendly music festival, from the children's universe to the teen scene, to encouraging families to bring their children there. Like we said, we have, Your Child, we have Mason Vi, we have Isaac Haddon, to be very small examples of these kids who have grown up there and performed there. But our patronage, there's nothing like FloydFest. We've worked at festivals across the country. There's this magic to it where people kind of self-police families. It's one of the safest festivals, if not the safest festival I've ever been to in my entire life. But kids run free. People self-police those kids. And it's beautiful to see the little tribes they create running around the festival and having a good time. And the kids look forward to it as much as the parents. And we say that if we ever lost that, we've lost the spirit and the essence of FloydFest, and so it's very important to us. I will say it was very important to our old leaseholder, at the old site, as well as us. And so we've carried that to the new site, and Festival Park will be just as family friendly, if not more, than the old place.
Well, that's a good transition to talking about your transition. For many years, you guys were actually located not in Floyd County, but in Patrick on a lease. Spent a lot of years investing in that property and building things. I want to, you guys tell me a little bit, the short version of how you made the decision that you needed to go somewhere else, that it was best for the festival, and how you settled on your spot in Czech, Virginia.
We had been thinking about what other options there could be for, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 years before that. And we had looked at various properties just to see what could be. And then some logistical issues hit. And Main Stage was at a point in its life, or in the original site, where it was going to need to be replaced.
And the Main Stage, interesting stories about that Main Stage. It was a timber frame
It was a
structure that, what were there parts from the old Lakeside roller coaster?
All right.
Or is that a
Beer garden.
That was the beer garden stage.
Okay.
So basically all of the timbers that held up the beer garden stage were taken from the old Shooting Star at Lakeside. And I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was probably Bob Foreman. Found them on the side of the road and was like, I've got a use for these. And up until about, a year and a half ago, you could still see the red and white paint on the bottom of that stage. But anyway, the Main Stage was going to need to be redone. We started looking at our options, and then I believe I don't even think you were looking at the property we got. We were
Good call. We were looking at the property across the street, and something caught our eye about the future Festival Park, and we drove in there, and we were looking down at some plat maps, some GIS, and very quickly the landowner told us pretty emphatically that the land was not for sale. And 35 minutes later, I think we were on the back of a UTV taking a tour of a site that would eventually come for sale.
right.
Yeah.
It's the way a lot of land trades hand in places like Floyd.
Well, it was
County,
very
right?
interesting because Sam was like, man, I think I found the spot, but he's not selling. And then what was it, 2 or 3 months later, another conversation happened, and it was like, well, if you were, what would it be? And one thing led to another.
So tell me about the new site. How big is it? And how is that different than the old place?
So it's just under 200 acres if you look at it. We're not using all that 200 acres. The old site, to give some perspective, the portion of the site on site that you utilized was about 50 acres. There was a 30-acre parcel, which was the pond house, which we had artist parking, staff parking, and camping on as well. The off-site lots, of course, got it bigger. Alpha lot, Delta lot, Charlie lots.
These are lots you had to take buses to get to your car or to your campsite.
Yes, and I will note on that previous question, too, that one of the reasons we moved was to allow everyone to park and camp on the same site. Shuttles, it's funny to look back. There's always going to be an issue with a shuttle. You can plan all you want, you can do backups all you want, but there's some tire going out on the side of the road. There's somebody backed up somewhere, taking a nap in the shuttle or something, not driving that thing. And so it became an issue, right? It became an issue we wanted to fix for our patrons desperately. We cared desperately about customer service and hearing back from the patrons. Every year, shuttle issues made our top 10 list. And so it was up to us to try to figure that out. And the obvious answer is to park and camp everyone on the same site. Safety. Our number one job, of course, is to keep people safe. That's a big part of it, too. The less times we have to shoot our patron and our family out on the roads, the better. And so John facilitating Festival Park was a huge part of that. And we've gotten there, right, with Festival Park, and I think we'll get there further. Now, the new site, even though it's higher acreage, because we're limited by the amount of vehicles we park on site, and then we'd never want to overload the site due to families being there. No one needs to wait in line for a porta-john. No one needs to wait in line to get food. We actually reduced capacity. We used to be 15,000 people over 5 days, not 15,000 at any given time. But now we're at 10,000 over 5 days. And that may increase to some degree with travel packages or such like that. But right now, that's a comfortable number. When we stress test the festival site this year, it was not stress testing to increase capacity. It was to figure out how to better serve the capacity you wanted to serve.
Yeah. How'd it go? We're now, when we're recording this in late August. of 2024. So you've had now a month to catch up on your sleep and think about, look at some surveys and things. How did it go from your perspective, John?
I was amazed. I remember standing up at box office with Sam Wednesday morning about, 9 a.m., something like that. It was within the hour of when gates were going to, and generally, if I remember correctly, we would always have, I'm going to say 50 or 60 people trying to get in line first. And it didn't really seem like, we were almost kind of worried that the state police or someone had blocked the road off because there was just like normal traffic. And every time I was up there, it was kind of normal traffic on 221. So
because people used to have to come in off the Blue Ridge Parkway,
Right.
which is federal.
Right.
And
Yeah, we would
a sharp turn, and it wasn't easy to do. People, and in the lead up to the festival, I know that was a lot of my friends' concern, was like, how are they going to do it on a 2-lane state road? And did that, and that.
Yeah, and I think, in addition to our friends, the VDOT Virginia State Police was very concerned, and with good reason, right?
Yeah.
But we are very proud of this. We worked over 12 months on a traffic and transportation plan that, I tell you what, worked perfectly. Knocking on wood there, right there. But that showed that proper planning with state agencies, public-private partnerships actually very much worked in this case. And we were proud to say that VDOT told us we had a zero impact on 221. And it's just due to that planning and due to our patrons understanding that this was a big make or break moment for us, and reading directions and taking it and say, we're supporting them in this endeavor. So that was incredible.
And then it was also really, really nice. And I know that Sam, in our surveys, as well as just what our friends have told us, our patrons and everything, I probably had 50 people stop me and go, how did you get me in here so fast?
Right, and when people did have to wait in line, they were on the property, they weren't on the highway.
Right, exactly. And there wasn't, let's shift everything to this and then go somewhere and then shift everything to this. It was, we're here.
Right.
So
that's, good reports on most things. You've had a chance to look at your survey.
Yeah.
What are some things that your patrons are hoping will be improved next time?
So yes, I mean, we care deeply about these surveys. I was saying earlier that it's amazing how many respondents we have. And I'm so blessed. We feel blessed for that, right? That people do take the time to tell us what's up. And a lot of it's positive, right? A whole lot of it's positive. That means I'll just stop and say that. I think that some thought we may have been more of a tent city, right? When you arrived, and when they saw the infrastructure that we care deeply about in planning on the site, that was impressive, I think, to them. So there's a lot to improve, though. And we made our top 10 list. And so, some of that includes our tram system was, I think, a welcome addition that gets people from the bottom downstairs of our property to the upstairs of our property. There's improvements that can be made there, right? There's more trams available that we need to make available. There are some more condensed routes that we need to make available. We're on that stuff. Our higher ground viewing deck, the piece de resistance, we think, of the property, was a difficult hike up. And in fact, I give us just a teeny bit of, credit here, is that we didn't quite understand how much of a hike it was. I guess we had gotten used to it to a degree at the property. But we are putting the infrastructure this coming year to allow a tram system to be in place that separates pedestrians from a tram to make it safe.
That higher ground, describe kind of what it is and what makes it special, because it was a really cool spot once you.
I'm going to jump in here for 2 seconds and say it is the coolest napkin sketch by this gentleman right here that you can imagine, because I remember the day that Sam brought it in and was like, well, I think we ought to do this. And then it kind of grew from that a little bit, but I would call it a viewing deck. I would call it a stage, but I would almost call it a facility.
Absolutely. And
the stage on one side, you've got sort of viewing deck, bar on the back.
Yeah.
And then it has the walk-in cooler underneath it, which of course has all the kegs of beer and all the beverages that get shot up through a chase system, which we thought was very kind of state-of-the-art to a degree for us, because kegs and people don't always mingle, and it's, once again, safety. And so that adds a cool element to the whole place. But it's almost, our former home, we had a viewing deck at the Hill Holler stage. And it's almost like that couldn't even be called a viewing deck compared to what we have now. I mean, this thing is massive. I think the capacity nears 600 at times.
Exactly.
And so John's intention, our intention, right, is to eventually open that up for other uses. That seems like a perfect place to get married. Seems like a perfect place to have a party. And it's permanent.
Yeah, and now that's something I want to talk about too. This is unlike your old site that was a lease, and you could only use it so much.
Well, even though the old site was a lease, we still built a lot of stuff.
Right, but on the new site, it is yours, and it could be used for other things. What are some of those things that you're looking down the road to maybe use that site for?
To kind of get off the music path for a minute, I think what we have been trying to do with the place is called Festival Park. One of our ideas was to make it kind of like a state park for hiking, for biking, for leaf viewing, for camping, for that kind of stuff. And I believe we just finished putting in the new Innova disc golf. We have a full 18-hole course there, and we're probably going to do another one for other times during the year. But, to use it as a place to go hang out is, I think, is going to be a very nice advantage for the community.
Mm-hmm. We want to see it as a community resource.
Sure. I want to talk about the fact that a river runs through it, right? You have a stream.
Yep.
I don't know what the name of the stream is.
Meadow Run.
Meadow Run.
Meadow Run that runs through the property and in front of the main stage. What kind of logistical problems did that had to be solved, because some of the flattest land is also has a wetland and a creek running through it.
Thankfully, we were able to the main stage pad, which is probably always going to be where main stage. We had a rented structure this year, but that's where main stage is slated to go. And main field, I think, because of the way the road structure went through the property to the best, to where we laid it out, it made sense to use the creek as a moat, so to speak, as a divide.
A creek that no one was in, by the way.
A creek that no one was in. Yeah, we long ago, when we changed our plan, we took pretty much everything on that property out of the water. So if you were there, you saw 9 bridges that you could drive across, and probably another 20 walking bridges, but everything had to be out of the wetlands just to protect what might be there. Because of the creek, that's why everything was kind of so far back. What we are doing now is doing some remediation to the sides of the creek on either side out of the water to make it to where everything can come a little bit closer.
Yeah, because that was one thing I felt is that one of the beauties of FloydFest is getting right up there with the performers and at main stage, and I knew it was a temporary stage, and I wasn't going to ding you on that.
It's also part of the top 10,
Right. How do we get the performers closer to the patrons?
Yeah.
I'm guessing just changing the way that the stage is designed and sited a little bit.
Yep, exactly.
Yep, and doing everything above board, of course. We figured out, we've called all the right agencies, made sure we're doing everything perfect, and it's going to be closer next year. The patrons and the artists are going to be closer yet again.
Right. I want to talk briefly about the On the Rise competition, which is, first tell me what it is and why is that, you're giving these bands a shot to play in front of big audiences. What has that meant for the festival over time?
It's part of our brand. It's been always part of our brand in the sense of, we get them on the way up kind of situation. This is really speaks to that right away. We have had these bands, basically it's a competition where we reward them. We have the audience vote, everything. These guys are peppered throughout the entire 5 days of the festival, playing on various stages. Our audience votes winner and runner-up, and they return next year to be paired up with a much larger headliner right on one of our main stages. They get paid. They have a microphone package from Peluso Microphone Lab. They get merch from Press Merch. We're trying to foster these up-and-coming bands and give them a leg up. Notable winners of that was the Avett Brothers, right? And it's all about relationships in this business. The Avett Brothers won the On the Rise. They ended up coming back playing 2 more years, and we came out of the pandemic. They did us a big solid, and they played back at our festival. So On the Rise is very important to us and always will be a part of our brand. Anything
that you kind of thought would be ready for this year that you just had to, at the last minute, say, maybe let's put that back on the truck and finish that for next year? I think maybe signage or a couple structures.
Well, the one big thing is we had ordered a whole lot of, I believe, 24, 25 light posts. Mm-hmm. That when we figured out exactly the process for putting them in, was too much to get. So we used probably an extra 24 lighting towers and things of that nature that will hopefully be installed for next year.
And there's one big kind of small thing, the picture frame, which has been synonymous with FloydFest, right? Picture frame was there. We had a new banner up, but at the last minute, we could not get it in safely for everything. But
I actually saw that's what I was thinking about, because I saw that at the last minute.
yeah, but we're going to go back to it and say, there was actually so much stuff installed in the last 2 weeks that we didn't think we could get installed because of the teams that John and us have put together.
Such an army of really just like a bunch of carpenter ants. Just
And if there's something that we could say at the end of this is thank you to everyone that helped and everyone that came.
Yes, absolutely. Our patrons, our contractors have supported us and believed in our dream for 20 plus years, and now for 2 big years in our life. And our biggest gift was to be able to give them back FloydFest. And it felt good to do that this year.
Yeah. Well, as a longtime patron, I'll also thank you guys and everybody who's worked on it down through the years. As we close the program, I'd like to thank John and Sam for coming down the mountain to share the story of FloydFest. You can follow along with plans for FloydFest 25 at www.floydfest.com. For What It Takes, I'm Tom Landon.